So we've got the very early stages of an RPG coming together here, a simple third-person character with a very simple level blocks. But of course the camera isn't following him yet, and by the end of the video we'll have this camera follow script that means that the camera will very simply lock to the player's position and smoothly follow him around. So that's what we'll be doing. I'll see you in there. I'm going to start off with a simple follow camera from a fixed perspective. What I want to end up with is a camera somewhere like this in our game at about maybe, I don't know, this distance, maybe something like that, and looking out through Ethan. I just want it to follow him fixed, just in a fixed offset like this. And then I'm going to, in a future lecture, show you more complicated cameras in case you want to do something different for yourself. So the first thing we're going to do is set up a camera arm. So I'm going to create an empty object. I'm going to call it a camera arm, and I'm going to reset its position back to the origin. And while I'm at it, I'm going to rename Ethan, or the third person controller, to player and reset his position to the origin. So what we have is a camera arm, which is just an empty transform at the origin there, and then we have the player standing on top of that, just so it's easy to see what's going on. Now, I'm going to child the camera to the camera arm, and now I'm going to think about where I want this camera to be. So we can see from the camera preview what it sees at the moment, so it's obviously too far away right now. I also said I wanted it to be in this sort of position. I'm going to go ahead and rotate it locally around its green or y-axis, like so. I'm going to bring the camera up and just generally mess around with it until I get it something like what I want. That's not far off at all, perhaps a little higher, but you get the idea. So what we're doing is we're positioning the camera based on a relative position to the camera arm. So we could move the camera arm around like this and the camera would go with it. So that's the basic point. And the camera itself is a positioned fixed camera on the end of that arm. And we can do what we like with that in terms of rotation and position. So the camera arm here, base object, just acts as an anchor for the camera. And what we're going to need to do is make that follow the player around so the camera gets stuck to the player. Now you could, of course, just child the camera directly to the player like so. And actually, if we were to do that, that would give you basically the same result, apart from you end up with a problem with the rotation. You see, as the player tries to rotate, the camera goes nuts. So that's why I'm not just putting the camera as a child to the player. I'm putting it as a child to this camera arm object. Now, right now, Ethan will move and the camera arm transform will be still sitting at the origin. So we need to write some code to do something about that. But before we do it, we're going to go ahead and tag the camera and the player. Now, by the way, you might wonder what this document that comes up is. This document is just my work plan for the lesson. So it just shows you what I'm doing and what's coming up. So we're going to tag the camera and the player. We want to make sure that the main camera is tagged with main camera. If you don't have that, then you'll get various warnings that Unity components want that. It should be by default if you use the existing main camera. If you deleted the main camera and started again, you just want to make sure you add that back. And then the player, we want to tag that as player. Okay, and that's a default off-the-shelf tag that Unity is providing and that we can use for the camera to find the player. Now, there are lots of other ways you could reference the player. You could reference it by the name. You could put a player script on it and reference it by that. But we're just going to reference it by this tag. It's a pretty normal Unity convention to do that. So that's cool. We've tagged the camera and the player. Now we're going to write a small script. I'm going to get that set up, but then I'm going to ask you to write the script. So on the camera arm itself, I'm going to write something called camera follow. Simple as that. And I'm going to make a C# script, which is going to go in the root down here for the moment, and just make sure that Visual Studio works okay. And hopefully your whole development environment is working well for you, whether you're on MonoDevelop on the Mac or Visual Studio on the PC. It's the same deal. And we end up somewhere like this in the camera follow script. Now, it's not a beginner course, so I'm hoping that you will be able to do the next challenge that is coming up. So let's put you into that challenge right now and go ahead and have a look. Write camerafollow.cs. Attached to the camera arm, well, we've already done that, keeps the camera arm at the player's position. That's all it needs to do, is keep that camera arm object in the same position as the player. Pretty simple. And as a bonus, consider doing this in late update rather than update. You can go and look at Unity's docs for late update. They're linked on the next slide and also in your resource links. and that'll explain why you want to be doing it in late update. But these sorts of things you want to do after the player's movements have been fully calculated. Then you want to calculate the position of the camera. So it's a good habit to do it in late update. So as a warm-up, go ahead, pause the video and do that. If you struggle with the exercise, don't worry. It might be you've been a while out of Unity. It might be that you need to go and do a little bit of extra base study in Unity. But I think this is a good test as to whether you're ready to kind of press on with this course from a coding competency standpoint. So pause the video, have a go at this, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, welcome back. Good to have you with us. So we're doing the challenge, and what we want to do firstly is we need to find the player. So we're going to find it as a game object and just call it player. The convention for variables I'm going to be using is lowercase like this. So we need to find this player, and I've said we're going to do it by tag. So we need to use a static method on game object, and it contains the word tag, and it's find game object with tag. Now we're going to assume there's only one player in the game. That could go wrong, that assumption, but that's what we're going to assume. And then it wants a string, so it's simply player. Now I don't like string referencing things. It's not a particularly elegant thing because it's too easy to go and change things, but referencing the player like this is pretty common, and we're not planning on making a huge amount of changes to the player game object. Well, we're going to modify and improve the game object, but there's just going to be one player throughout the whole game. So I don't think we're going to lose track. But just be aware, it's a bad code smell when you reference things with strings like this. But I'm not too worried about it in our particular case. So we go ahead and find the player. What you could do, what would make sense here, is just to simply print the player. And you may need to make that into a string. And by doing that, you're just having a quick debug check that in the console, object not set to the instance of an object. Okay, so something is struggling here. GameObject.find object with type. Okay, what have I done wrong? Just as a coding warm-up, can you see what I've done wrong there? Well, I've declared a player here, but what I haven't done is set the result of this method. GameObject, a static method on GameObject called findObject with type. I haven't set it to anything, so I need to say player equals. Let's try that again. Simple novice error there to get us all started. There you go, and it's found something called player. It's printing that out. It's found one of them. It's one log entry, and that's good. It looks like it has found it, but of course it's not yet sticking to the player because we haven't done the final bit, which is relatively simple. We're going to do it in late update. As I explained, you want to make sure that all of the update calculations are done before you start moving cameras around in case you find that the camera calculates its position before the player's finished calculating its position. So if we do it in late update, all the view stuff happens after all the player positions. And what we simply want to do is we want to say the transform.position. Now, what is that? I'm going to start slow in this course as a recap. It's the position of the camera arm, isn't it? Because we're in the camera follow script, so we're talking about this transform of the camera arm. So we're saying the camera arm's position becomes equal to the player's transform position. And it should be as simple as that every frame you just lock the position of the arm to the player. And we could just say lock position. Well, I'm not going to say it there actually, because if I put a comment in here now and I forget to update it, it's going to go out of sync with the code. This code is fairly self-explanatory, so I'm not going to put a comment in this case. Now what happens? There you go, and it's smooth. So that's what we wanted to achieve, okay? The camera is locked to that player, and you can at any point, firstly, whilst in play mode, experiment with different positions for that camera. You could move it, and of course, you see the difference, but when you stop playing, it will be lost. As always with Unity, those changes will be lost, any changes made in play mode. And if you want a permanent change, well, then you do it not in play mode. Or, if you want another tip, you do it in play mode. Say you're in play mode and you discover your perfect camera angle. You go, oh, that one there's perfect, and you don't want to lose those details. Well, of course you've got them here. In the transform of the camera, that's what you adjusted. You can copy the component of the whole transform of the camera, stop playing the game, and then go back to the camera and paste component values, and that will push the camera back down where it was. So I hope that makes sense. I'm just going to whip mine back a little bit. A couple of different options there for you. Well done if you did the challenge. Please go ahead and post in the Q&A, engage with your fellow students, say whether you found this easy or hard. How are you finding easing yourself back into Unity? I'd love to hear that. I'm going to go ahead and save my project now, and I will see you in the next video.